speaking of life, and the beginning of life, which is full of joy, and in the middle of life, we tend to get kind of bogged down. Um, and thinking about me, me, me. So what I wanted to do is to share with you a story about Jill Bolte Taylor. Some of you may have read her book, Stroke of Insight. Hi, Colin. And she was, in fact, somebody when I was on the cruise gave me that book, but it seemed so big and that I never got around to reading it. So I was really happy to find that Terry Gross on National Public Radio had interviewed her. And so I will share with you her story. At the time, she had a stroke, and at the time she had the stroke, she was affiliated with Harvard. She was a brain scientist. So she was able to watch what was happening to her brain and document it. So, and as of 2000, that was in 1996, and as of 2009, she was a neuroanatomist affiliated at Indiana University School of Medicine. So amazing that she came back. Let's see. So she describes the morning of the stroke. She says, and I notice that my internet is a little unstable, so just raise your hand if I miss something so I can go back and read it again, okay? So I'll keep, or interrupt me because I may not see you. Okay, she says, well, the morning of my stroke, once I lost my left hemisphere, which thinks in language, remember that, okay? Once I lost the storyteller, the ability to think linearly, I still retain this ability to think in pictures. The right hemisphere shifts into a consciousness of the present moment, okay? So that's important to also keep in mind, that the right hemisphere is what will help us stay in the present moment, okay? So she's talking about losing her language and thinking in pictures. And she says to Terry Gross, you know your name because your brain is telling you, oh, my name is Terry. This is what I do. This is who I am. This is where I live. This is my agenda for the day. But if you don't have that, you would still exist, but you wouldn't be functioning as Terry Gross anymore. You wouldn't be functioning as the individual you define yourself to be, okay? So she's saying that the sense of self is how you define yourself, okay? So I'm going to quote here. She says, in the absence of our relationship to who we are in the external world, there's this incredible release of responsibility and stress and the physiological response that goes with any of that. And when you allow yourself to shift into the present moment, it's very freeing. It's very peaceful, very light. It feels very light, the connection to all that is. For me, it was an extreme experience of euphoria. That's where we find joy, is right in the moment. You can only be happy now. Not yesterday or in the future, now. So the left hemisphere is all about our ability to communicate with the external world, and the right hemisphere allows us to be in the present moment. All right, so, and that's what meditation is kind of teaching us, is how to quiet the left hemisphere, right? Quiet the language, quiet the words, okay? Remembering that words are just pointers to reality, okay? Okay, so she also says both hemispheres are functioning all the time, but the left hemisphere thinks in language, and it's really about our relationship with the past, our relationship with the future, and our ability to think linearly. And then she used the example, my ability to know that I have to put on my socks before I can put my shoes on, that's linear thinking, okay? So it's the logical, critical, analyzing portion of the brain. And it searches for differences instead of similarities, which I think is interesting. So the right hemisphere is the big picture of the present moment. So when she says, when I look out at the world, I see everything around me. I'm not focusing on details. I think in pictures and images. So the two hemispheres process information very differently. And as a result, that they think about things very differently and they care about different things. She says, and I believe that they have very different personalities. So, and she says, without language, the language center telling me that I am Jill Bolte Taylor, I'm a neuroanatomist, I felt no obligation to be her anymore. She says, I felt a sense of freedom. I didn't have any of her memories or any of her knowledge or any of her attachments to relationships. Okay. I kind of got to start all over again. My mother said later, she said that she would see me sitting frequently with a big smile on my face and wonder, how can she be happy? So how did she recover? Of course, with a lot of therapists, but what's one fascinating way that she learned to speak fluently again was by watching a videotape of a presentation that she had given just a few months prior to the hemorrhage. Okay. And she says, quote, yeah.
Given a presentation just prior
to the hemorrhage.
Okay.
Okay. So she says, I had it professionally videotaped, and I watched that video over and over and over again. And by watching the woman that I had been, I learned to speak the language. I learned her inflection of her voice. I learned how to speak to an audience. So I really learned a lot about how to be me.
Wow.
Isn't that fascinating? So she, she lost her sense of self, and she used the video of herself to learn how to be herself. I was just like, wow. Okay. So Terry Gross asks her, during your 8 years of recovery, were you ever able to go back to that euphoric place that you experienced during the stroke? And she says, actually, I've never left that space of euphoria because it's always there. My right hemisphere is always turned on. And when I lost the left hemisphere, I had the purity of that right hemisphere euphoric experience. Then that was my total experience. She said, I didn't experience any of the left hemisphere connection to the external world that would bring stress or bring my stress experience. Okay. She says, so I have the ability in the moment to turn off my language and stop any focus on how important I am in the world, and then come back to the present moment experience of joy. Okay. So he says, what you're describing sounds like this state of that a lot of people are trying to achieve through meditation or through some form of mystical pursuit. And he says, and for a lot of people, it's a struggle, she said. It's a struggle to be quiet, or a struggle to quiet the chattering in the mind. For most of us, it is. So he says, so you find it easy to quiet the mind? And she says, it is. It's very easy for me because I don't like the way it feels inside my body. And I think that, she says, I don't, yeah.
I don't like the way it's inside of my body?
I don't like the way it feels inside my body. Okay? Yeah. So she said, and I think that is one of the things that I gained. I lost my cognitive thinking mind. What I gained was a real perception of how everything feels inside my body. And that's what I'm left with. So, but of course now she has both. So she, in other words, she didn't have the words to describe what she was experiencing. And so this is where our language can actually change our experience of what is happening. And so in other words, if we believe all of our thoughts, even the harmful ones, then we can let our words bully us and control us, right? It's important to remember that. So, so we can use, but we can also use words for the opposite, that we can use them to step back and observe. And she goes on to say, and when that worrying voice wanted to come back online, I didn't like the way it felt inside my body. But when I stop and recognize how my body feels, like when I'm angry or when angry or worrying or stretching for whatever it is that I can get, there's a lack of satisfaction going on there. It has a feeling inside of your body. The chest gets really tight and the shoulders go up and you clench your jaw. She says, I don't like the way that feels in my body. And as soon as I clamp my jaw, my brain says to me, girl, you're in your left hemisphere. Do you want to be there? So she's got real clear distinction between when she's in the language hemisphere, because she lets her body direct her. So we're going to do a practice soon using the body. So let's see. She says, and there are times when it's very appropriate for me to be in my left hemisphere, but I don't want to stay and hang out there anymore because physically it does not feel healthy to my body. Yeah. So, Terry Gross also, when he asked her about, did it feel like a spiritual experience? And I really like how she responded, where she says, ultimately, whether you're a Christian-based or Buddhist-based or whatever your choice of religion is, there's a story that you tell yourself that gets you, that allows you to quiet your mind, whether it's through a mantra or whether it's through prayer, to quiet that left hemisphere, the language center, in order to be able to feel that you are in relationship with something that is greater than you are as a single individual. She says, so I think all religions, this is the important piece, I think all religions are the left hemisphere story that helps us to get into the right hemisphere experience. Isn't that interesting? All religions are the left hemisphere story that helps us to get into the right hemisphere experience. So that's her story about losing her sense of self and what it is and how she gained it back in 9 years. And then now she's back as a brain scientist. And she's out, as a matter of fact, when I was doing a little research, she's out doing speaking now because she's a spokesperson for the Brain Tissue Center at Harvard. And if you check her on YouTube, she has like an hour and a half. I'm looking forward to listening to it. Video just came out April of this past year, 2020. So, but just less than 6 months ago. So, so in other words, we're talking about the sense of self. And I had mentioned that in the book Altered Traits, where Richie Davidson and Dan Goleman talk about how the brain creates a self. So in essence, what they're saying is that there's places in the brain called the default mode network where the sense of self is created and then modified. And I'll quote, they say that the default mode network integrates our memories with the present experiences. It creates stories where we are the star of the movie and stories that bind together to give us a sense of me. All right. So, let's see. Okay, and also when the mind wanders, the mind wanders to the default mode. It wanders to me, thinking about me. Like when people are in the lab and they're doing nothing, and the scientist will say, what are you thinking about? And they'll say nothing. And then they push them, and then they'll say, I was thinking about how good, what you were learning about me. Is the test working? Always the mind was wandering when they're doing nothing, thinking about themselves. So, and then you remember I've talked about the study done at Harvard called "A Wandering Mind is an Unhappy Mind," and what they found was that the mind wanders 46.9% of the time. In other words, half of our lives, for the ordinary mind, the mind is wandering. And what are we thinking about? Me. So, and also thinking about me, that's how we get sort of stuck on me. and our thoughts become kind of sticky. So next week we'll be talking more about working with releasing that sense of the stickiness of thoughts, emotions, and sensations. But also, what I want to do today is to we'll do a guided meditation on using, let's say, acceptance skills, the acceptance component of mindfulness. And that's one way that we can sort of step away from being stuck on ourselves. It's a way of accepting whatever is coming up in the present moment. Okay, so we're not worrying about the past or the future, but really practicing acceptance skills. So now, before we start that though, I just want to check in and see if people have any comments about the Jill Bolte's story, Jill Bolte Taylor's story. Any questions about it? Did it make you really want to spend more time in the present moment?
Yes.
Okay, well, I see some affirmatives, so that's great. Okay, so it looks like we're ready then to do a guided meditation. So let me ask everybody to mute yourselves. And I'll start with ringing the bell. So if you can, or see if you can, just allow your attention to follow that sound into silence. Okay. So maybe just bring the attention now to the breath. Take a few deep breaths. Slow the breath down. And find a position that's comfortable for you, a posture that allows you to be alert and yet relaxed. And if it feels more comfortable to turn down the lights in the room or turn off the camera, whatever feels right for you. So you want to maybe check again on your posture, one that allows you to be both aware and alert, and yet, most importantly, relaxed and at ease. Allowing the eyes to be open or closed, whatever works for you. And now take a few moments to just notice whatever sensations are present for you right now. What sensations are in your body right now? Just noticing sensations, it doesn't matter whether they're pleasant or unpleasant or somewhere in between. Just notice them. We're just exploring. Inviting a sense of effortlessness. Just noticing what's happening within the body and using it as an opportunity to get familiar with knowing the calm presence of awareness. And allowing yourself to just allow thoughts pass through, no need to block them. Just noticing what's happening in the present moment using the body. And let's continue exploring different sensations that we find in the body. Now, moving your awareness through the body, see if you can find any unpleasant sensations. Perhaps some tension or tightness that you feel somewhere in the body. The point here is not to try to change the experience, not trying to change unpleasant to pleasant. Instead, just notice what this experience is like. You may want to give it a label, like tight or heavy or sharp. Just using a word or an image that will help you focus. Just exploring this unpleasant sensation. Aware of it, but with a sense of openness and curiosity. When you notice that your attention has wandered, just bring your attention back to your breath without criticizing yourself or your wandering mind. Just accept in the moment that that's what our minds do. They wander. And we can work with that by being willing, without judgment, to simply begin again. As we continue to explore whatever sensations are happening in your body, see if you can find something that is pleasant. It might be a feeling of relaxation or a feeling of ease, a feeling of vibration or tingling. Could be anything. And again, just notice what it feels like. Explore it with a sense of openness. And now, find a place in the body where you don't feel anything at all, or perhaps a neutral sensation. Simply rest your awareness in this part of your body, whether it's a neutral sensation or just a kind of blank spot or numbness where you don't feel anything at all. Just explore that experience. Continue to bring awareness to this part of your body and just notice what it feels like. From the point of view of awareness, the pleasant sensation isn't any better than the unpleasant sensation or the neutral sensation. All of these are like clouds floating through the open sky of awareness. So the practice here is not to hold on to the pleasant ones and get rid of the unpleasant ones. It's just to notice them and continue to explore what's happening in your body right now. And see if you can bring a sense of unconditional acceptance to whatever you find. Perhaps adopting the attitude of effortlessness, exploring, or just noticing what's happening in the body. That's it. So you don't need to concentrate too hard. You don't need to block any thoughts or experience. Just noticing what's happening in the present moment. And if you get distracted, that's fine. Just bring your awareness back to the present moment and pick up where you left off. The main practice here is actually not about sensations, it's about awareness here now. We're using sensations in the body as a way to explore and get more familiar with knowing this quality of awareness. You might want to tell yourself that there's nothing to do, nowhere to go, just watch, just witness, just be present. If your mind is busy and filled with thoughts, you might want to pick one specific part of your body or one sensation and rest your awareness on that. If your mind is calm, then you can open up and just be aware of whatever is happening in the body and let your attention move more freely. Everyone's journey is a little different. This is your journey. So find a natural rhythm, whatever works best for you. Sometimes you might want a gentle focus, and sometimes you might want to be more open and relaxed. So it's really up to you. Just experiment and find a natural balance that fits your practice. And now let's take a moment to sort of celebrate the fact that we took time out of the day to do something good for ourselves, and that goodness will bless the lives of those around us. Thank you for practicing with me. And I'll end with the bell. So did awareness change the way you experienced your sensations? Dorothy?
Well, when you said try to find a neutral spot, the only spot I could find that was neutral was my nose. But I've been out running around, and then I thought, well, maybe my chin might be a little neutral. And it was out in the cold, and I was all in this aches and pains and whatever. But did I ever relax during that?
Oh,
I felt 100%. I could just feel all the tension go out where all the tension was.
oh, wonderful.
What is that called?
You mean the practicing acceptance skills of sensations, or awareness of the sensations?
The awareness of the sensations.
Yeah, yeah. So you're just
That's what.
aware of sensations without judgment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the idea. Although I didn't say that while we were doing it, but it's really um, just accepting what you're experiencing right now.
Does that kind of neutralize the pain too? Because then my shoulder was hurting, and the pain in my shoulder went away.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
maybe I needed to relax.
You got it. As a matter of fact, there have been studies that show that when people practice acceptance skills, the people who practice that part of mindfulness, actually, when they apply in the lab, something that is painful enough something to cause pain but not harm, those people actually experience, when they're accepting it, they experience the level of the pain as less. So
I've heard of that. But I never experienced it before myself.
yay, I'm so glad you did.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah. So, anybody else? Did it change the way you experience your sensations by just being aware of them? So let me ask you this then. Go ahead, Maureen.
I don't know. I don't think it really changed it for me. I had a couple wisdom teeth pulled a couple days ago, and I've still got pain there like all the time.
Okay.
Not bad, but it's just, like a toothache.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to not focus on that today now. But I was very relaxed. I think I was almost dozing off at times. My head would kind of bob, and I would wake up, and so I don't think I was asleep, but I was in a trance like.
Yeah. Okay. So you chose not to bring your attention to the discomfort in your mouth?
Well, I don't know that I really did choose that. I'm waiting for it to go away, to get better, but I was trying to not think about it, I guess.
Aha. So the exercise was to actually place your attention on it and then see what happens. So pay
Oh,
attention to it. Yeah, yeah.
okay.
Okay. So you can try that again later and see how it is for you, because
Okay.
it should make a difference.
I was trying to think about have my attention on something that did not hurt.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
So, well, was anybody else able to bring a sense of unconditional acceptance to their sensations, even for a brief moment? It sounds like Dorothy did. Anybody else? I'm not seeing anybody say yes. So that's where your work needs to be. Uh-huh. Yeah. In fact, Mingyur Rinpoche, who happens to be Richie Davidson's teacher. Richie Davidson is I think you all know who he is, right? No. He's the founder of the Center for Healthy Minds at the University of Wisconsin and a neuroscientist, psychology. He teaches psychology and psychiatry at UW, University of Wisconsin. So, but anyway, Mingyur Rinpoche suggests that we practice paying attention to our body sensations without judgment 5 times a day for a week. So that could be your homework. Because clearly it looks like there's only one person who was able to really bring non-judgment to sensations in the body. And one of the reasons why they picked using the body is that the body's always in the present moment. Okay. The body's always experiencing what's happening now. And it also gets us out of the language part, because if you're paying attention to the body and sensations, then you're less likely to be saying, I like it, I don't like it. So that's the idea. Yes, Kit.
It seems as though it's sort of the opposite of a lot of the things we've been doing, because many of the meditations we've been doing, as I understood them, is emptying our minds and trying to have a peace without focusing on specific body parts. Or am I wrong about that? Have we been trying to empty our minds quite often?
Yeah, the idea of emptying the mind, okay, that is kind of like, I think after years of practice is when you can actually empty the mind. But so the idea of being 100% in the moment, then we're not worried about the past or worried about the future, okay? Then there's less likely to have more language of judgment. So I think in the past we have done more like, say, cultivating a sense of joy, a sense of relaxation, a sense of rest. This particular exercise is about acknowledging what's really happening and then practicing not judging it. Saying, okay, this, although it feels like, the exercise almost can feel like a little bit contradictory, because if you call it unpleasant, then you're judging. But the fact that there's only 3 feeling tones, pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral, really does simplify it, because we can add a whole bunch of emotions on top of those 3 tones, feeling tones. But so in this particular case, what we're doing is just bringing the attention to what's happening now. And again, it's that idea of relaxed. If the mind is really busy, then you may want to focus on just that one spot as a way to keep the mind from wandering, if the mind is really busy. If the mind is calm, then you can open up your awareness and just let whatever arises arise and pass away. Because that's really the idea, is noticing what arises and then watching it pass away and not clinging on to it. So does that answer your question, Kit?
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. Okay, good. Does anybody else have any confusion about what we were doing today?
Yeah, I guess I didn't completely understand what the purpose of that was in terms of picking something that's unpleasant and then focusing on it and without judgment. I'm not sure I fully understood that.
Okay, okay.
I may listen to the recording and
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
And you may want to try that again. So I guess the real question would be, what would sort of stop you from paying attention to what's happening and just allowing it, just accepting that it's happening? What stops you to be able to do that?
judgment stops it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because as soon as you say, I don't like this, then you're not paying attention to what this is. You're paying attention to how you feel about what this is. So you see, that's an extra layer of experience.
Hmm.
The judgment becomes another layer as opposed to the direct experience. Yeah. I mean, I would say that the best way to practice is maybe when you're having sex, because usually you're not judging it. Or at least when you're having an orgasm, you're not judging it. So, but also, let's say if you're eating your favorite dessert and you bite into that, you're really not judging it at that moment. You're just taking in euphoria almost, It's like your favorite dessert. You've been waiting, looking forward to it all day, and you take that first bite. It's like, oh. So it's those kinds of moments that we're that non-judgment of just, it's like, I'm here now 100%. Yeah. I bet, Aline, when you ride your horse, when you're riding the horse, you're focused right there on what's happening with that horse and how your body feels when you're on the horse. So you might want to pick that as a time to notice your judgments, and then also practice just being aware of and see the difference between judging how you feel when you get on the horse or what happens, and allowing just to be present with 100% with what's happening in your body. Yeah. So
Actually, my excuse me, my cat Ziva is becoming a very good teacher for me. The animal whisperer sent me an email today that Ziva is content and happy, and she doesn't care how many days she has left or how much time. She just wants me to just be with her. And I've really started doing that. And so when she's on my lap, I put down the book, or I turn off the television, or I close the computer, just sit with her.
Yeah. Oh, marvelous. Yeah.
It is marvelous. It's difficult.
Aha. Yeah.
Going into that left hemisphere.
Yeah. 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 Because that's the beauty of animals. They don't have a language because they're here now. That's all they want now. Yeah. Maureen, you started to raise your hand?
Yeah, it would be nice if we could do that with people, right? Just put everything else down and pay total attention to this person while they're with you.
And one of the ways that we did a couple of weeks ago, maybe about a month ago, finding your anchor and then holding on to your awareness of your anchor while you listen to the other person, which is a way to stop the mind from wandering away. I don't know whether everybody was on at that point. I think, well, Gail, you weren't, but I don't know, maybe we should do that one again because it's really about how can we stay present. I know that Colin said, wait a minute, I thought we were supposed to just focus 100% on what was happening now. But this is a way to keep your mind from wandering, is if you find an anchor and then you keep that anchor in your awareness, part of your attention is on it. So you're dividing your attention, yet you're keeping it from going somewhere else while you're trying to listen to the person.
You give an example of an anchor?
Yeah. Well, what works for me when I do that, like if I'm listening to my husband, especially if he's talking about something that I find really boring, it's really hard not to. I mean, you can't be totally interested in what someone you love says, right? Even though you'd like to be. So if I actually practice this now, is I bring my attention to either my breath, which be an anchor,
Okay.
or my hands, the sensations in my hands. And then I keep part of my attention on my hands, and that keeps my mind from wandering away so that I can actually, be present to what it is he's trying to say to me,
Because sometimes I'll ask somebody a question
Yeah,
and then they've given me the answer. I never heard it.
I know. Yeah. And then
It's so annoying. It's just so annoying.
I think we've all had that experience.
Not alone, Dorothy.
What's that? You're not alone, no.
Good, good. Glad to hear it.
Well, haven't you ever sat and, like 5 minutes, you're sitting there, you're nodding and saying yes to somebody, and then you realize, oh my God, I don't remember what they said.
Oh, yeah.
You're nodding yes. It's like, yeah. So that's why it's good to have an anchor. Good way to practice. Yeah. So, okay. So everybody's going to practice this week. What? I just want to see if you got it.
Pay attention to your body sensations
Yeah. How?
Without judgment
without judgment.
and with acceptance.
There you go. That's
What do you mean exceptions?
acceptance.
Oh, acceptance. Okay.
Acceptance, yeah, with acceptance. So, and acceptance doesn't mean that you have to like it. It doesn't mean that you have to agree with it. It just has to
Yeah.
means that you acknowledge it.
You have to let it go too then? Acknowledge it and let it go?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
Yep. In other words, yeah, it's that sense of letting go. So it's whatever's coming through. Oh, I'm having this thought now that I'm tired or whatever. Okay. And then I'm going to let it go. Do I have to do anything about that thought? Probably not. If I'm talking to you guys, there's no way I can, I can do anything about it. Right.
So how long do you do that?
What I would suggest is find a couple of activities like brushing your teeth, and then focus on the sensations of brushing the teeth, or taking a walk, or doing the laundry. So let your attention be on those things that don't require your full attention. So that's
Okay.
the place to practice, because the whole idea of practicing meditation is so that we can take it into our daily life. If it only works while we're sitting on the cushion where we're calm and pleasant and all, and it doesn't work in the rest of your life, well, why bother? On the other hand, you could use
I was thinking too that say you have to wait in traffic and you know it's going to be a few minutes, or you're at the supermarket and you're waiting to check out, and the person in front of you has two full baskets, so you know it's going to be a while.
Yeah, I think I told you that once, that I had some people that were in one of my classes on the cruise ship sitting there meditating while they were waiting for the class to start. And I said, oh, you're meditating? And they said, already? And they said, yes, waiting time is practice time. So that's a good mantra to have. Waiting time, it'll remind you the next time you have to wait. Waiting time is practice time. Yeah. So you can stop what you're doing and allow yourself to stop your worry, so to speak, and the frustration, because what good is that going to do? It's not going to change it, right? Yeah. So waiting time is practice time. Yeah. So Has everybody picked one? If you think about the rest of your day, what activity will you try to apply it to? Colin?
Well, I have something that occurs all day, every day, and that's my tinnitus, or tinnitus, depending how you want to pronounce it,
Ah,
the ringing in my ears.
mhm.
Okay, I can't do anything about it.
Right,
There is no cure for it. I
right.
can't stop it. But the only thing I can do is let that cloud go by and accept that it's there and it will always be there.
Mhm.
And that's the example I can use.
Yeah, yeah. And in other words, let the thoughts that you wish it wasn't there go by, right? Because it's still
Yeah,
going to be there.
yeah,
Yeah.
trying to ignore it, but accepting it at the same time.
Okay. Well, and then also you can use that to you can also use that as your anchor.
True.
I sometimes will do that if I don't have if there's not a hum in the area, you know, where I'm sitting, then I sometimes will pay attention to the tinnitus, the ringing in my ears. So, and that's a
Yeah,
constant sound.
that works.
Yeah, it's a constant sound, so sometimes it's easier to keep your concentration on. So you can use that also to build your concentration skills. Yeah.
And use
Good point.
as the thing to focus on.
Yeah. Yeah. I like I said, yeah, because I think I've said in the past, the breath, sometimes it works for me, sometimes it doesn't. And in the beginning, it never worked for me because I was trying to concentrate, to control it. And so it never worked as a way to pay attention because it was incredibly boring to try to control it. So that's why I decided to find something that had a constant sound. And also, I think it's important when we're thinking about finding a right anchor for you is to experiment with your different senses. Which one are you able to concentrate more with? If you can concentrate better with your sense of sight, then find something in the room that you can pay attention to and keep your eyes fixed on it. If you can concentrate better with sound, then find something that has a sound that you can pay attention to. If it's, so that would be hearing or seeing. If it's smelling, you may want to burn incense. And every time you inhale, to focus on the sensation of smelling. And if it's tasting, be careful with that because chocolatey eclairs probably would not be a good anchor. I'm going to meditate on my chocolate ice cream, you know, probably not a good idea.
And Donna said we had to do it.
Right. On the other hand, if you're going to eat it anyway, then if you focus on it, you're going to enjoy it more anyway. So, yeah. So anybody else? Does everybody have an activity that you're going to apply it to?
Well, I have socks to put together.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, perfect. Perfect. Anybody else? Kit.
I I have to put eye drops in every night.
Okay.
And so I'm supposed to wait for a while
Ah,
when you put those in.
yes.
And so it's been quite successful for me to try to meditate during that period when I'm waiting for my eye drops to do whatever they're going to do.
Okay. Oh, good. Okay. So putting the eye drops in, there you go. And good, you're already doing that. So now you can just shift a little bit in terms of what playing with you, the quality of your awareness while you're waiting. Yeah. So, anybody else?
You said I was just going to comment on, you said the body
Yeah.
is always in the present
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I never thought of that before, but it's so true.
It is. Yeah.
So whenever you're concentrating on the body, you're bringing yourself to the present moment then, right?
Right. That's it. That's why they use the body. That's why they say the breath or a body part. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. There you go. Dennis, you were going to say?
Yeah, I'm going to do it while I'm walking. I have been going to the Y and I count laps, and I don't know why I count, but I guess just to kind of know how far I've gone. But what I'm going to do is meditate during that time and put my app on my phone that keeps track of my distance, so I don't have to count the stupid laps, and then I can sit there and meditate for 45 minutes to an hour, and you know, concentrate on what's going on, and not so much, you know, trying to remember what lap I'm on, you know. So
Right. Wonderful. Good. So, well, it's 3 o'clock. I just want to check and see if anybody has not picked, if you haven't picked an activity you're going to apply to, because I think it's good to just keep that in mind, because when you start to do it, it'll remind you. So even if you just verbalize it.
I can't think of anything. I mean, I can brush my teeth, but
Okay. And maybe
that's
that.
the only thing that I can think of.
cooking.
Walking, yeah.
I could walk
Yeah.
in the basement.
Okay, well, I don't want to keep people beyond the 3 o'clock. So I'm just going to have to find out what you applied, your quality of awareness and non-judgment this next week, and what activities that you did use. So, yeah, so I'll look forward to that. So
Okay.
thank you all for showing up. I appreciate seeing you all. I missed Ginny. Tell her we said hello. And
Yep.
oh, and Holly said to say hi to everybody. So she couldn't come today. So everybody have
Happy
a
birthday,
wonderful week.
Donna. Happy birthday, Donna.
Oh,
Yeah, happy birthday.
thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. Be well. Love to you
Bye-bye.
all.
Bye, Donna. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Hi,
you.
Maureen.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.